The boardroom fell silent so suddenly that even the hum of the city beyond the glass walls seemed to vanish. Aurelia Vance, the formidable billionaire CEO known for her unshakable composure, stood frozen mid-step, her breath caught somewhere between disbelief and something far more dangerous. A small voice had pierced through her carefully constructed world, a voice that carried a truth she had spent years burying. The little girl stood there, wide-eyed and innocent, her gaze fixed not on the power or prestige in the room, but on the simple gold ring resting on Aurelia's finger. And in that fragile moment, everything Aurelia thought she had left behind came rushing back. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Echoes the Stories, because stories like this remind us how deeply human we all are. It had been a bright, ordinary afternoon when Aurelia arrived at the community outreach event her company was sponsoring. The sun poured generously over the playground, children's laughter echoing in the air, a stark contrast to the rigid silence of her corporate empire. She had agreed to attend reluctantly, her assistants insisting it would improve the company's public image. To Aurelia, it was just another obligation, another carefully scheduled appearance in a life ruled by precision and control. But there was something about that day that felt different, though she couldn't explain why. She had built her empire from nothing, rising from obscurity with a relentless drive that left little room for anything else. People admired her strength, her intelligence, her ability to make impossible decisions without hesitation. They didn't know about the nights she stared at the ceiling, haunted by memories she refused to revisit. They didn't know about the ring. The ring was simple, almost unimpressive by billionaire standards. A thin gold band with a small, slightly imperfect stone. It wasn't worth much in money, but it carried a weight far heavier than diamonds. It was the only thing she had never replaced, never upgraded, never hidden. It remained on her finger as both a reminder and a punishment. As she walked through the playground, surrounded by staff and photographers, Aurelia maintained her usual composed smile. Children ran past her, their joy unfiltered and wild. She barely noticed them at first. Her mind was already drifting back to her next meeting, her next decision, her next carefully planned step forward. And then the little girl approached. She couldn't have been more than 6 or 7, her hair tied loosely, her dress slightly worn but clean. There was no fear in her eyes, no hesitation as she stepped closer to the powerful woman everyone else seemed intimidated by. Aurelia almost missed her, until the child gently reached out and pointed at her hand. In a soft, curious tone, the girl said that her father had a ring just like that. The words hit Aurelia like a sudden storm. Her smile faltered, her heart skipping a beat that felt far too loud in the quiet space around her. For a moment, she couldn't speak. She couldn't move. The world narrowed down to that one sentence, echoing over and over in her mind. Her staff assumed she was simply caught off guard. No one else understood the magnitude of what had just been said. Aurelia knelt down slowly, her usual confidence replaced by something far more fragile. She studied the girl's face, searching for something, anything, that could explain the strange, rising feeling in her chest. The girl looked back at her with simple honesty, unaware of the storm she had unleashed. Aurelia asked gently about the girl's father, trying to keep her voice steady. The answer came in small, scattered pieces. The father wasn't wealthy. He worked long hours. He had raised the girl alone for as long as she could remember. And he wore a ring just like that every single day. With every word, Aurelia felt the past clawing its way back to the surface. Years ago, before the power, before the wealth, before the carefully constructed walls, there had been a different life. A life filled with uncertainty, but also with something she had never found again, love. It had been imperfect and fragile, built between two people who were trying to survive more than they were trying to dream. And when the opportunity came for Aurelia to escape that life and chase something bigger, she took it. She told herself it was necessary. That she couldn't succeed if she stayed. That love, as beautiful as it was, couldn't give her the future she wanted. So she left. She left without looking back, without allowing herself to feel the weight of that decision. The ring had been a gift, a promise made in simpler times. She kept it, not out of sentiment, but as a reminder of what she had sacrificed. And now, standing in the middle of a sunlit playground, that sacrifice stood before her in the form of a little girl. Aurelia's world, once so controlled and predictable, began to unravel in quiet, terrifying ways. She couldn't ignore it. She couldn't walk away as easily as she had before. For the first time in years, uncertainty crept into her thoughts, not the kind she could solve with strategy or intelligence, but the kind that demanded something deeper. Over the next few days, Aurelia found herself distracted in meetings, her focus slipping at the most crucial moments. Numbers blurred together, decisions felt heavier, and for the first time, she began to question the path she had taken. Her assistants noticed the change, though no one dared to mention it. She started searching quietly, using resources only someone of her power could access. It didn't take long to find him. His name was Elias Rowan. The name alone was enough to make her chest tighten. Memories she had buried so deeply came flooding back with painful clarity. The way he used to laugh, the way he believed in her even when she didn't believe in herself, the way he had looked at her the day she left. She learned that he had never left the city. That he had worked tirelessly, moving from one job to another, doing whatever it took to survive. And that he had raised a daughter on his own. Aurelia's daughter. The realization didn't come with a dramatic revelation. It came quietly, settling into her bones with a weight that was impossible to ignore. She had spent years building a life of unimaginable success, only to discover that the most important part of her life had been growing without her. She struggled with what to do next. For someone who had always known exactly what to do, this uncertainty was unbearable. She considered walking away again, convincing herself that it was too late, that she would only complicate their lives. But every time she tried to push the thought aside, she saw the little girl's face. She heard those words again. "My dad has a ring like yours." It wasn't just a coincidence. It was a connection she could no longer deny. Days turned into sleepless nights as Aurelia wrestled with her past and her present. She realized that all her success, all her power, had come at a cost she had never truly acknowledged. And now, she had a chance, a terrifying, uncertain chance, to face it. When she finally decided to see them, it wasn't with the confidence of a CEO. It was with the vulnerability of someone who had everything to lose. She chose a quiet afternoon, far from cameras and public attention. The neighborhood was modest, nothing like the world she lived in now. As she approached the small house, her heart pounded with a fear she hadn't felt in years. She wasn't afraid of rejection. She was afraid of what acceptance might mean. When the door opened, time seemed to stand still. Elias looked older, his face marked by years of struggle, but his eyes were the same. There was a moment of recognition, followed by something far more complicated, shock, disbelief, and a pain that had never fully healed. Aurelia couldn't find the words she had rehearsed. All the speeches, all the carefully planned explanations, disappeared the moment she saw him. She didn't come with excuses. She came with the truth. The conversation that followed wasn't easy. It wasn't forgiving or immediate. It was raw, filled with the weight of years lost and questions unanswered. But beneath it all, there was something that hadn't been completely destroyed. There was still a connection. And then the little girl appeared again, her presence breaking through the tension like a beam of light. She recognized Aurelia instantly, her face lighting up with the same innocent curiosity. In that moment, Aurelia realized something she had never understood before. Success wasn't measured by wealth or power. It was measured by the connections we build, the people we hold on to, and the courage to face the mistakes we've made. Rebuilding what she had lost wouldn't be easy. It would take time, patience, and a willingness to step out of the world she had created. But for the first time in years, Aurelia felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel. Hope. If this story has touched your heart even a little, don't forget to like, comment, and share it, because someone out there might need this reminder today. And before we reach the end, here's something special. Comment below where you're watching from and one person you would never want to lose, no matter what. Aurelia didn't return to her old life unchanged. She still ran her company, still made difficult decisions, but she was no longer the same person. She made time for the things that truly mattered. She showed up, not as a CEO, but as a mother, as someone willing to rebuild what had once been broken. The ring on her finger no longer felt like a punishment. It felt like a second chance. And sometimes, that's all it takes to change everything.